And so what it is actually, when we're looking at post-traumatic stress disorder, anybody who has PTSD has had an involvement with a terrible, tragic accident, or they've been raped, or they've been molested. Something tragic has happened in their life. And so many times when you have PTSD, you have flashbacks, you have things that remind you of what's happened, you have nightmares, you wake up in a sweat, you can't understand what's happening, you try to avoid things that have been happening in your life, or avoid things that you can see that of remind you of something that has happened with that trauma, okay? And we are so grateful for you. Thank you. And so that's what PTSD is. It stands for the anger that you have. That's some of the symptoms that you have. Can you imagine if you had been raped? Would you be sad? Yeah. And for some people, that sadness doesn't go away. So I can tell you, as a therapist, I have worked extensively with many of my clients, and the part of the problem that they're having right now is the fact that they still have the memory of being raped. And it's raped by a family member who you think is supposed to be a loved one protecting you. So that's what PTSD is. Post-traumatic stress that happens to a person. As a result of that, they isolate themselves. They avoid social settings. They get anxiety when it comes to being around other people. And so because of it, again, like I said, there's sadness, but they feel sad. They just don't, they're scared. And if I go over to this gentleman over here, and he reminds me of the person who abused me, or he smells like the person who abused me, I will have a flashback to the point where it first happened. And so with this PTSD symptoms, when we had the pandemic and people were socially isolated from others, and we were told that we couldn't be there, the support that you had, you no longer had. And so that became problematic. And so as a result of it, the COVID virus wreaked havoc over so many of us. And so we had worry. And how many of you were worried about getting COVID? Okay, about 4 or 5 people. Everybody else is like, I wasn't scared. I was afraid. I knew. Okay, so yeah. So some people, and even now, some people are still worried because they're worried about if I get COVID, then something's going to happen. And we know that it's possible. But the thing is not to focus on it. So, whoops. Okay, we're having a good day today. Anxiety. So anxiety is the next thing we're going to talk about. So the anxiety has triggers that always affect us in their own way, because anxiety, we know that it's related to stress, intense and excessive, persistent worry. That's actually something that we use to diagnose people. What does that mean? I have people that I work with right now that they said, I've been having anxiety since I was a child. Do you know what anxiety really is? Anxiety is just being worried all the time. And so statistics tell us, since COVID, that 25% of people with anxiety has increased. And I don't think that that's only going to be 25%. It probably is a larger number, but this was taken in the height of the pandemic in 2020, it says 2022, but even before then, we were finding that there was an increase of it. 62% of respondents who responded to the COVID crisis reporting, they also reported of having anxiety. So, now, what it looks like when you see it Everybody's at the club, everybody's laughing, everybody's having a good time. When you go to a comedy club, what do you think happens? Come on, people, tell me. What happens when you go to a comedy? What? People are laughing at the comedy club, right? Everybody knows that when you go to a comedy club. If Grace is at the comedy club, you know she's laughing, right? We know each and every person is laughing at the comedy club. But you see that lady all the way in the back? She's looking and she's like, I know they're really laughing at me. And that's what's happening when you have anxiety. People start thinking, I know, wait, is it me? Is it my breath? Is it my clothes? Why are they laughing at me? And anxiety causes you to be always anxious about things, not actually knowing that everybody's laughing because it's a comedy club, right? So when we look at anxiety, we know that it says that we literally, anxiety says, we do not fear the unknown, we fear what we think we know about the unknown. That's what anxiety is about. And so, really and truly, there are times when we do fear the unknown. That's what anxiety really is anyway. Because if you think about it, you're anxious about something that hasn't happened. So you don't know if it's going to happen. So you think it might happen. And so we start getting into this tailworld spin of saying, I think it's going to happen. It might happen. I think it did happen. And the reality is, it didn't happen. And so we have to be like this slide here. I'm sorry you can't see it too well. But we have to be like Charlie Brown, who says, worrying won't stop the bad stuff from happening. It just stops you from enjoying the good stuff, right? That's all it is. Now, I know you can't see this too well, but I do want to put it out there to you. Does anybody, literally, I have a prize. Can anybody read this on the wall? No, the bottom part. Okay, so you can read it? Okay, you're not in the game. All right, no, you can read it, you're not in the game. Okay, anybody else can read it? You can read it? You're not in the game. All right, who else? Can you read it? You can read it? Okay, so those of you who cannot read the bottom part of the slide, tell me, where did the word worry come from? Take a guess. Simone, stop trying to read it. Stop trying to read it. I want you to guess. Anybody, just take a guess. No answer's wrong. Well, yeah, the answers could be wrong. But what anybody think of the word, the meaning of the word worry? Where did it come from? Okay, so you want to do something, but you really can't. Good analogy. Thank you for that. Ebony, I'm going to pick on you because you're here. Go ahead, Ebony, tell me. Can you read it? Good. So what does it mean? Good. Okay. So for those of you, thank you very much for those of you who participated. So worrying is it's an actual old English word, which I had no idea. And I want you to think about this. Every time you think about this, when you start worrying about something, I want you to really think about this. It's really from an old English word that is meaning to strangle, to tear, literally, figuratively, harass, and choke out an individual. That's what the word worry means. So when you start to worry, just remember the origin of the word. Does that make you feel any better when you think, I'm so worried about something? Yeah, it wouldn't make me feel better either. As a matter of fact, I was shocked. But that's what it literally means. So when we think about the word worry, now what happens is when we look at these parts of the body, The part here where you see it's connected, you have a sense of doom. You have panic attacks, that's what's affecting your brain. Depression is linked to your brain. You have headaches that you're getting, and you're feeling irritable. And so all that is affecting your body. You have a pounding heart. You have breathing problems. You have loss of libido. That means you have no sexual cravings. Upset stomach. That's all the things that are affected by when you have stress, anxiety, PTSD, depression. It even affects your legs. Extreme fatigue, increase in blood pressure, muscle aches, and other pains can be impacted by what you're getting with stress, anxiety, and depression. Okay? So, what do we do with all this information? So now we're thinking, okay, you know what? I'm having all these stress things going on in my body. We've already talked about how the pandemic has impacted all of us, so that we had not only the stress in our lives with going ahead and having our jobs impacted, our friendships impacted, our marital relationships impacted, our health is being impacted. Now, what do? Well, this is where you really need to start paying attention to writing down anything that you can get from here or put it in your phone. Because now what we're doing is we're introducing you to the healing strategies. I hate to say coping, because coping is just getting by. So the healing strategies are what we're discussing. And so we're going to find different ways to heal ourselves from all the pain and stress from this pandemic. So when we look at it, the benefits of it, of healing from all of what's happening, which is why we need to go ahead and push through, is we need to build our confidence so that now when somebody is near you, you don't have to go, oh my gosh, I know they're gonna kill me, or what am I gonna do? Oh, I'm gonna get sick. You don't have to feel that way because we're teaching you different coping mechanisms. It improves your independence, because now you can actually go out and not have to be so worried all the time, because now you know what you know, right? So these are the coping strategies that they actually have on this slide, but they're healing strategies. It helps you to manage your stress. It helps you to manage your emotions. It improves behaviors. It helps to regulate you and helps you to work through challenges. So, what I'm talking about right now is the reasons why it's so important to be able to manage your anxiety, any stress that you're going through. But it's not just us. We have found out that our kids have been deeply impacted by this as well. And so we don't want to leave the kids out. So right now I have Simone Wilson, who is also a social worker, who's going to come and talk to you a little bit more about strategies to help your children. Make her welcome, please. Oh, and Erilyn is not going to come.
So I wanted to come and just speak to you guys about the children. Like she explained, are we on the slide? Yeah, like she explained, children also are going through the same things that you are going through right now with COVID. Going to school and having to learn online, and imagine a child starting kindergarten, never been to school before, but now having to learn the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and how to spell all through a computer. Things can be very frustrating, and I will start off by saying, let's practice healthy, I'm using coping skills, because I say for everyone in the family to do so, because basically the first teacher is you guys, the parents, the people that are around that child 24/7, not just the teachers. So kids are always watching, and learn how to cope from adults. The next is I'll try a lot of different coping skills. your child, yes, they did come from you, but they have their own personality. They are their own individual. So how they feel and how they might handle situations is not always going to be how you feel they should, and they're not always going to be like you. So going over deep breathing, journal writing, using positive self-talk, practicing uh, gratitude, exercising, writing a list of choices, mindful coloring. Those are all great ideas in which you can present to your child, but that doesn't mean it just ends there. Building coping skills into your daily routine. So something I do when I first wake up in the morning is I get on the edge of my bed and I take 3 deep breaths to prepare myself for the day. I learned lion breathing, and I've been actually practicing that. And it's when you take a deep breath in and you go, ah. And I like it because I'm goofy and it makes me laugh in the morning. And why not start off with a smile and a laugh? The next one is practicing these skills for fun. And so it makes me laugh. Imagine interacting with the child and them doing it. I mean, it could make their day and be a memory that they remember from you guys for the end of time for them. Some coping skills that I also felt were useful that I looked up were active coping skills, were like going for a walk, a run, or a hike, running in place, bouncing and kicking a ball, jump rope, squeezing a stress ball. Those are all things I know. I work with children and they're super active, and once you tire them out a little bit, you kind of get a break because they're ready to sit down and they're ready to relax a little bit. So the next one are relaxing coping skills. That's listening to calm music, taking a quick break or rest, drinking cold water, closing their eyes, counting backwards from 10, blowing bubbles, holding a stuffed animal. Creative coping strategies are coloring, writing a poem, making a song, playing an instrument, playing with Play-Doh, um, building Legos. And there are so many other things that you guys can do and explore. All you have to do is really just communicate with your child and see what they really enjoy. All you have to do is observe, and a child really doesn't have to tell you what they want. You can watch them and you can see the things that they enjoy, and you can implement those in times when they are getting stressed out or overwhelmed or do not know how to communicate. You can use these activities to bond with your child at that time as well. And so I wanted to leave you guys with that because this pandemic has really been traumatic for everyone. Regardless of what you may think, children are not being exposed to other kids, so interacting with other children can be very overwhelming for them at times, not knowing how to be in social gatherings and communicate with other individuals and talk to them or even express themselves. And so at this time, implementing those coping skills can really help them manage their day and also create a better home environment and even get children out of trouble in school. And so thinking about doing things like this, I really do feel would be beneficial for your child.
Thank you. Good. Okay. So what she was just explaining was exactly where we need to go. And so I'm going to, because there's not many of us, I'm just going to quiz you. I'm going to quiz you, or just see what you know. What do you do to calm yourself down if you're really feeling anxious about something? What are some of the things? Ooh, okay, I got a hand in the back. So what are some of the things that you would do? And let's see if we can pull that up. You're going to have to speak really loud. Sleep. Now, is that a coping strategy? Or is that a healing strategy? Who said no? How many say no? Just raise your hands. Don't be afraid. How many people think sleeping is a healing strategy? Okay. Potentially dangerous? Okay. All right. So you can sleep, or you guys are being really nice today. I'm saying if you feel like, is sleeping a healing strategy? Resting. Is resting a healing strategy? Katie Ann? Temporary fix. Okay. If it's a temporary fix, does it mean that it is a coping strategy, or sleeping is a healing strategy, or resting is a healing strategy, even if it's temporary? Okay. It's, well, coping, I'm using healing as the word, but coping and healing, I'm using it synonymously, okay? So if you hear me say coping, and I'm still saying healing. Yes, Brother Knight. It might work for some and not work for others. So it's giving you a temporary, okay. It can, yeah, okay, so we're asking if it can be, and we're not talking about if it's for you, but we're talking about in general, right? So for some people, you had your hand?
I think sleeping for coping from anxiety and depression, that's a sign of depression to sleep.
Uh-huh, yeah.
It seems like, yeah, you're trying to sleep, but you can't just sleep it away. When you wake up, you're going to still be in the same state.
Right, right, okay, okay. Mom had her hand up.
Your question was anxiety and depression.
Right, I'm saying in general, I'm not just talking about anxiety and depression, but I'm saying for this whole pandemic, do you think that sleeping would be considered a coping strategy?
Coping. I was going to answer the question and say and move from there. But
Okay, so answer the question.
well, I think one of the ways to cope would be deep breathing exercises.
Okay, no, we're talking about sleeping right now. So,
Also, you're still on sleep.
yeah. So is that a coping strategy?
It's short term because you have to deal with the underlying issues.
Issue, right. So for all those of you who thought that sleeping is a coping strategy, it is. It is a coping strategy. It's just that, and it's temporary, but if you think about it, everything that you do is temporary, right? You have to continue doing it. So if I told you that somebody was using marijuana as a coping strategy, is that a coping strategy? It is a coping strategy. It may not be the healthiest coping strategy, but it is a coping strategy. And it's for some people, I've had clients that told me, and mind you, I met them, we had them in court, wellness court, where if you smoked or drank and it came up in your urine, that you could go to jail. But the only way they could function was with a hit of marijuana. That was their coping strategy. It wasn't a healthy coping strategy, but that's what they did. So we do know that that's a coping strategy. I'm not recommending that, but I'm just saying these are some coping strategies that people use. Now, you were right when you said breathing. Breathing is a coping strategy that we use a lot in our therapy sessions because, well, when you take a deep breath in, it helps to clear your mind. It helps to give oxygen to your body. It helps to relax you. So, right now, I'm going to do that with you. So, if you were anxious about something, or even if you're not, like I would tell you very transparently, today, when I was trying to get everything going, a lot of things weren't falling into place. I had to take a deep breath, calm myself down, and bring myself back together. And the other thing is, if you have people around you that can help you with that, then that's what makes it even easier, because today Joshua had to say, Mom, it's okay, and help me calm myself down. Because I wanted so much to make sure that this workshop goes out for you, that you can be able to learn from it. And so I needed that moment of peace. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to take your hands and put them on your lap. I see a lot of people are crossing their arms. Uncross your legs if you have them crossed. Okay? All right. And so I'm going to advise you to just take a moment, close your eyes if it makes you comfortable, and take a deep breath in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. Now, this exercise we're going to do is called the 4-second breathing exercise. So I'm going to count to 4. You breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you breathe out through your mouth for 4 seconds. Ready? Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Open your eyes. So if you felt anxious before, for 12 seconds, it takes you to calm yourselves down. Okay? These are all the different things that you can do as a healing strategy. Exercising, drawing, listening to music, enjoying nature. How many of you have an animal? Nobody in here has an animal? Okay. I have an animal too. I got suckered into reading a book. I did. I got suckered. And my daughter came home and said, "Mom, can we have this animal?" And I thought, but now he's kind of like the family pet. But it's a lot of fun, right? And it takes off a lot of tension. Gardening is key. Cooking a meal, accepting a challenge that somebody might give you, taking some tea, doodling on a paper. These are strategies. We want to pray, do yoga, like I told you before about reading, spending time with friends. That's important. That's really important. Ask yourself these questions whenever you feel that you're having something that you can't handle. Will it matter 5 years from now? Will it matter? Whatever you're mad about right now, 5 years from now, is it going to matter? Is whatever you're going through a fact or an assumption? That is key, right? If it's a fact, then we'll say, is it something that I can change? If it's something I can change, then let me do something about it. But if it's nothing that I can do about it, then let it go. Easier said than done, but that's a reality. And then do the what ifs. So many times people say to me, what if this happens? Like, what if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if? Okay, well, if you could do the what if in the negative, then you could do the what if in the positive. What if you don't lose your job? What if you go on vacation? What if you stay healthy and win the bodybuilding championship? Oh, okay, maybe not. But still, what ifs, right? So we're talking about reframing skills, and this is where I'm going to need your help. Because what happens with reframing is the anxious thought that you're thinking, so something bad is going to happen to me, so you change the thought by thinking about something positive. So, you have a reframe thought you want to say? You have an example? All right, come on up.
Okay, so for me, my personal coping mechanism with anxious thoughts is that I trick myself into getting excited. So I think about, I work at an amusement park, and I think about how all the kids like to go on an amusement ride, and when they're anxious about going on the roller coaster, it's really excitement. They're still excited. So I feel like the feeling can go either way. So whenever I'm anxious about something else, I just think about that, how you could easily be on like the anxious feeling can feel like excitement, and I trick myself into being excited about whatever I'm anxious about. So whatever it's really situational on what I think or how I get myself to be excited. But that's I use those reframing skills in that thought process.
Okay. Simone?
Um, Sometimes I guess in my field, right now I'm doing an internship, and so I work with a lot of people that that maybe are immobile and are laying in hospital beds and won't be able to leave for a while. And so I was super nervous about starting counseling them. And so one thing that I like motivate myself and say is like they wouldn't have approved me to be here if I wasn't good enough. Like, so it's okay for me to go in there. And then sometimes I have really bad dark humor, so it's like, well, they can't leave anyway, so it's not like they can run from me and they can run from talking to me. So, and I mean, sometimes it helps, and sometimes it's like, oh gosh, maybe I should think like that. But it helps me in the moment.
All right, I like that. So basically, what we're trying to do is have you change your thought to something more positive, right? So if you're at work, and I'm going to give you an example, and I need you guys to give me back some, talk to me. If you're at work and somebody looks at you in a way, what is your thought? Like if they look at you like, okay, they okay,
No, I just said they having a bad day, maybe.
they're having a bad day. Okay, Joshua,
I have a new hater.
you have a new hater. Okay, anybody else? There's somebody in the back.
Oh, me. When I was younger and less mature, I would look at like, okay, so what are you looking at? Why are you looking, not saying that to them, but I would feel that way as I got older and wiser. What I do is I'll say, okay, it's not, I don't project it on myself. And say like, they might have woken up on the wrong side of the bed. They might have, so they're having issues. So it's
Okay.
not me. It's not something I did. Even if it's my boss, supervisor or so, it's their problem.
Yeah,
You see,
you
that's
sound.
where my thoughts
That's where your thoughts
process.
go.
That's where, yeah.
You sound like you have a daughter who's a social worker.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
her mom is a nurse.
Then that's
Yeah,
right. She
so-
said the right thing, right? So if somebody's looking at you and they cast their eye at you, and the thing about reframing your thought is just like what Erilyn and Mom said, that you know what? It's not about me. It probably is something that they are going through. And so not to internalize that, but reframing your thinking. That way, when you see it, you can say, you know what? They have the problem, I do not. All right, so what about somebody who says, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to get sick. I'm going to get sick. All right, so let's see. What do you think? Instead of thinking, I'm going to get sick, what do you think? No, if you're thinking that I'm afraid, I'm going to get sick. So instead of thinking I'm going to get sick, what is something that you can say to yourself? Grace.
So if I think I'm very loud, but I think if I am afraid, like, or nervous, I'm about to do something, I tell myself, Grace, you're going to be fine. Right now, I own the feelings. Right now, you are a little bit nervous, and you're nervous because maybe this is the first time you're presenting it. However, take a breath. You're going to do just fine. You've done this a million times. So I just kind of talk myself through it.
Thank you. Very good. Reframing. He's coming with it. Oh.
Um, if I think I'm gonna be sick, this is, I guess, where I mostly rely on God. I say if I'm going to be sick, then it's God's will that I'm going to be sick, and that pain produces perseverance. That's how I think about it.
Oh, okay. Pain produces perseverance. Okay. And so one of the things that we can do, I'm going to add, Brother Eddie, what do you say? How do you reframe that thought?
In terms of I'm going to get sick, or I just believe that things are going to work out, and just trusting the Lord. In terms of I'm going to get sick or things are not going to work out, I just tend to trust in the Lord and believe, pray and believe everything is going to work out eventually. So that's how I
Okay.
do it.
All right. And that's a great way of reframing. That's exactly what we want you to do. Whatever the negative, this is the key. Whatever the negative thought is, turn it to the positive, right? Just change it to think of it in a positive way. If you think I'm going to get sick, then I know that even if I get sick, I can get better, right? And it's in God's hands. It's in God's will, right? And so that's one of the things that we want to think about. This exercise is here is called the 5 senses. 5 senses. So when you're feeling anxious, this is what you can do. 5 senses. Anybody know your 5 senses? Okay, good. So your 5 senses. You go ahead and you look at 5 things. It doesn't have to be in this order, but this is a tool that we use to distract you. So if you're feeling anxious, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I want you to take a time. Think of 5 things that you can see. 5 things you can see. Look right now at 5 things you can see in here. 5 things you can see. And you describe it to yourself in detail, like you're explaining to somebody who has no vision. So I'm looking at the 10 Commandments. It's a large glass fixture, which is affixed from the ceiling. It has the 10 Commandments on it. It's very pretty. I remember it's transparent. I remember learning about it. And so then I'm going through that detail in my head. And then when I finish, I move on to the next. I'm looking at a beautiful lady. She has a black mask on, a black jacket with a red, white, and blue stripe. She has a pink shirt on, and it's saying something on it, but I'm not able to see it in its fullness. I love the way her hair is, and she's looking at me. And so you go through that, and you do 5 things that you can see. And then you move on to the next site. So when you're looking at it, you remember these are all your senses. You look at your eyes, your nose, I'm sorry, I'm messing it up. 5 things you can touch, 4 things you're counting down that you can see, and you do that. And then you go your nose, 3 things that you can smell. Now, if you're like me who can't smell things very well, think about things you have smelt in the past. So I remember New York pizza, the smell of New York pizza, what makes you want to eat New York pizza, how good it tasted, and the smell of my perfume. And you go through that. And then you say 2 things that you can taste, right? And then 1 thing you can hear. But you do each of these in detail. And then by the time you get down to, if you get down to the 1 item that is left, you would have calmed yourself down and forgotten, for the most part, that anxious feeling that you had. And it helps to reduce that. So that's one of the things we want to make sure you know. So when it comes to breathing, we talked about talking with somebody. The pandemic stopped us from socially gathering, but the Bible tells us it's good for us to be hospitable and to be able to engage with people. So that's what we do. I'm going to jump to the 8 laws of health. I have a prize for anybody who knows the 8 laws of health besides you, Joshua. Anybody else? Anybody else? Oh, okay, so Brother Darrell put up his hand. Anybody else know all the 8 laws of health? Okay. You don't know it, Brother Eddie?
I can get most.
All right, so let's go. Tell me what it is, 8 laws of health. I said Brother Eddie.
Yeah. So nutrition, yeah.
Nutrition, yeah.
Fresh air.
Fresh air,
Exercise.
Uh-huh,
Trusting in the Lord.
right. He's
sunlight.
calling for a friend, okay. Which one? What do you say?
Sunlight is one.
Sunlight,
vitamin D.
Rest, yeah.
It
Temperance.
said water too, right?
You did not say water, but water?
Water, yeah.
Okay. So, trust in God, okay.
I said that.
He wants points now. He wants points. Okay. So the 8 laws of health, the way you remember that is by the acronym New Start. New Start. Every day, try to get this in. New Start stands for nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, trusting in God, air, rest, and temperance. If you can do that every day, I guarantee you're going to feel better about what's going on in your life. And moving on from that, you're able to just breathe, relax, and relate. You can do this. Now, the next slide is what I'm going to tell you that I have done personally. I hope that you guys have done this too. And so it's called take a cation, right? It's a vacation, staycation, mindcation, whatever you got to do, take it. Now, my mom always said good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good gets better and your better gets best, right? So there's a step to it. If you got the good, which would be the vacation, staycation. Let's see, let's start with the mindcation. Good, better is a staycation, and best would be a vacation, right? Because what happens is when you can't take the time to go on vacation, you don't have the money, you don't have the opportunity at your job, whatever it is, so you can't take the vacation. So you do it a staycation. Now, some girlfriends and I from our church here, we went on a staycation, and we went to Gastonia, and no one, do I have a witness, could tell us that we were from Charlotte, because we were some exotic woman coming from someplace, and each and every one of us knew we were on vacation, right? And so we just took we went to Gastonia. What is that, 30 minutes away? But we felt like we were in the Bahamas or something of that nature. Now, the trick about being on a staycation is when you stay at home, the sheets are clean. I always eat out when I'm having my staycation. I go places that I have never really gotten to go in Charlotte because you're always busy working. Or you can just stay and binge watch some nice sermons. Yeah, so something, right? And you can have a self-spa, and that's what the self-care is. And the mindcation. Anybody know what a mindcation is? Daydreaming. Anybody else? Mindcation. What is it? Sleep? You love to sleep. A mindcation, that's kind of like it, but this is what, you see this picture up here where it says mindcation? In my mind, I've been to Bora Bora so many times that the wait staff is like, you're here again? Because in my mind, I've been to Bora Bora. You have mindcations at work? Okay, that's good, I think. But, it doesn't matter where you are. You want to have a mindcation. It's just really thinking about something that calms you down and takes you to another spot. It doesn't have to be an actual going someplace. You're actually having a relaxation time from in your space. You're just in your mind, right? So when it comes to this, we want to be able to say what the Bible says. It says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, because I am your God. I will strengthen you and I will help you." That's Isaiah 41:10. Then Jeremiah 30:17 says, "But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord." And that is Jeremiah 30:17. 3 John 1:2 says, "Dear friend, I pray that you enjoy good health and that it all may go well." And Jeremiah 33 says, "Nevertheless, I will bring health and healing to it. I will heal my people, and I will let them enjoy abundant peace." And Philippians 4:19 is one of the ones that I really love. It says, "God will meet all your needs according to his riches in glory." And so as a result, we know that we do not have to worry or fear. We know that God will see you through it. So I'm hoping that these healing strategies, if you take the time and implement them, will be a blessing to you. So at this time, I'm going to open up the floor. If anyone has any questions that they want to ask us, please use this time now. Any questions or any comments that you'd like to make? Wow, I was that good? Okay, Joshua.
Comment I wanted to say these were very good strategies and techniques in order to help learn how to distract yourself or how to deal with coping mechanism. I mean, how to deal with stress. And I wanted to say that just how we were using coping and healing strategies interchangeably, but wanted to just point out the fact that coping was, like you said before, can be either healthy or unhealthy. And then I felt like healing strategies was only healthy, but coping strategies can also be unhealthy, like smoking or drinking or anything like that. So just because it is a coping strategy doesn't mean we should use it. It has to be a healthy, healing coping strategy. So yeah, that's what I learned.
Okay, thank you. Brother Simmons.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed everything and reminded me of the many strategies that the Lord has given us in terms of new start. And thank you very much for approaching that again, right? And so many times that you forget about those things, and then you get into a lot of anxiety because you haven't rested the way that you needed to, or you haven't exercised lately. Sandra will always know when I'm getting a little bit antsy, or that she wants me to go out and ride my mountain bike. Normally, if I can go out and ride in an hour and a half or whatever, then I'm a much better person than before I went and exercised. So, but God has given us all of these things, and we know that from a prophet perspective, she gave us that more than 100 years ago. And it's just implementing those things that we have been given to make sure that we are whole as a person, mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things that I do want to remember, I just remember when you said that, sleeping is a really good thing, because if we don't, it even helps us to lose weight. When we're talking about anxiety, the statistics say that 85 to 90% of the things that we worry about does not come through. So when we're anxious about these things, I want you to remember that when you think about, what am I anxious about? And then the other thing is, when you worry about something so much, if it actually happens, you've actually lived through that experience twice. So bear that in mind when you really start to get worried about something. If it doesn't happen, you just wasted a lot of energy. Go ahead, Erilyn.
Yes, I know that, well, kind of like a question for you to share an example or story. I know that you're a therapist, and during the pandemic, I was just wondering if you could share a time where you actually had a client. I don't know if you serve children only or adults. I don't know what age range you do.
Adult
But,
woman.
okay, so with the adult women you had, can you share a time, not detail, of course, for confidentiality, but where you actually saw where someone had anxiety or depression and you was actually able to, like, what strategies they used to kind of come out of that stage? And like, do you have a story you can share?
Do I have
Well,
one?
I'm sure you have, but
You just want one? Yeah. Yeah. So I also work with clients who have been in almost fatal car accidents, right? So I deal with PTSD. And I have to counsel them and let them know the strategies that I'm teaching you, how to calm down their fears. Many times people are thinking, you know what, I can't get back in the car. That happens a lot with PTSD. And so they get all worked up and they're like, I want to go in the car, but I'm so afraid that somebody's gonna come and hit me like they did before. And so we actually use the five senses a great deal of time to help them to recognize and distract them from that thought that they're going through. And then I also say, we call it it's like a court, I would say, what is the evidence that you have that this is going to happen again? And so for them, they say, I don't. And I said, so why are you worried about it? So for instance, if I had a person who had a car accident, I don't know how long you've been driving. How long have you been driving? How much? 30 years. 30 years driving. And my question to him would be, 30 years you're driving. Do you drive every day? Okay, so you're driving. Mathematicians in the room? Any mathematicians? All right, use your calculator. So, or whatever you got to use. So 30 years you've been driving, and if you had been one of my clients and you had an accident one time out of the 30 years, I would take 30 years times 365, because that's 365 days in a year, and it gives me the total of
950. 10,950.
10,950. So 10,950 is just a really poor estimate of how many times you've driven, because that's one time and for 365 days out of the year. So it tells me that you've been driving, let's say, 30,000 times, because you drive there and come back and then, right? And so you've had one accident out of the 30,000 times you've been driving. What is the likelihood of that happening again?
0.000003.
And so when they see that and they hear it that way, it lets them, what we called before, reframe your thinking. Does that answer your question? Oh, in the back. Sure. Okay.
What happened is I have a spot at home where I like to hang out. It had, nice little grass and my chair and my little table and my little flowers and whatever. One day, a snake about 2 feet long fell out of the sky and dropped right next to me.
Okay.
Not out of the sky, out of the tree, a long, skinny, green snake. And my whole life is traumatized because I can't, my favorite spot in the world is gone.
Okay. So did everybody hear what she said? Okay. So my question to you is, what type of snake was it?
It was, I don't know, it was long and it was almost like, yeah, 2 feet long, green.
And what color was it?
Green. It blended in with the leaves really well. So
Okay.
Up in this tree, I won't be able to see them.
Okay. And so the snake was green. Do you know if it's poisonous or if it's,
I feel like it probably isn't poisonous.
you think it is?
I think it's not.
Okay. So I'm hearing from um, Dr. Doolittle over here. He said it's not poisonous. Now, I would say exactly what I was saying before. Is it an assumption or a fact? If it's an assumption that it is poisonous, then you have something to be concerned about. And so you can lay down traps around the area so that you can avoid that snake from doing any harm to you. If it is not poisonous and you just don't like the snake, there is called, we have, come on, social workers, where we call therapy, where you're introduced to the reality therapy, where we can introduce you to things to kind of minimize the feeling of fear. Now, if you're afraid of it, then you can think about what's the worst that could happen. Well, okay, so then, and no, so this is serious. So you could get a stroke and die. So if you had a stroke and died, what's the worst that could happen?
To me, nothing else, but to people in my life, like my mommy here, she would just be.
Okay, so the worst that could happen is that you died. So what's the worst that could happen to you? Exactly. So you're dead. The worst that could happen is that you die, and honestly, that is a concern, but we get worked up a lot, and I don't mean to sound funny about it, but we get worked up a lot, and the emotions that we're feeling is the emotion that we're feeling about ourselves, but we're already dead. So nothing will happen because we're dead. If it's your family members, it's going to be sad, but are they going to be able to move on? Hello? In over time, and I'm saying that because I lost my mother. I know what it's like to lose somebody very close to you, and I'm going to feel pain from time to time. Mother's Day is never going to be the same again, but at the same time, when you think about it, again, the questions I had before, what's the worst that can happen? If you could do something about it, then do something about it. If it is the worst thing that's going to happen 5 years from now, if it is, then let's see what we can do to change it. But if you can't do something about it, then you learn to let it go. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Does it answer your question?
Yes, I think I'm just gonna find something to do about it. Maybe an umbrella.
I can't hear. Can you put the mic to your mouth, please?
I'm thinking I like the part where you said if I can do something about it, do something about it. So I'm guessing maybe an umbrella or something.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. They have lots of traps that you can use too for insects, animals, and those kinds of things.
It fell out the sky from a tree.
I'm sorry?
It fell out the sky from a tree.
Yeah, I'm thinking that
Okay.
the thing to be addressed is her fear of the snake. Because if it was a bird that fell out, or if it was a leaf that fell out, or a fruit, she would not feel that way. So I think it's the fear of the snake that,
Right.
that should be addressed.
So that's what we addressed, right? So we did say if there's something you could do about it, then do it. So by doing that, there are so many things that you can do, whether it's snake traps or whether it's something that can be put like a poison or something that's around the area so that it would stop. I am not a veterinarian, so I don't know. But I'm pretty sure if you do a Google search, you'll find things that you can do that will deter the snake from being around you. When we went camping as pathfinders, we used to put mothballs around the area so that the snakes would stay away. So there's things that can be done as a result of. Does that make sense? Katie Ann? Oh. And so we're going to start to wrap up.
I kind of had an answer for you in the back when it comes to like fear of animals and snakes. Um, I personally, I don't think anyone does. I don't think anyone likes roaches, and I have an extreme fear of roaches. So when I used to live alone in my apartment, there was one time I was in my kitchen and this roach just came out of nowhere. And we had like traps and little borax like acid for them, but this roach came out of nowhere. And for like, I want to say 3, 4 weeks, I did not go in the kitchen. And if I did, it was like, I'd get what I need and I'd like run out. But I kind of, to get over that, I had to kind of just train myself to be like, what are the chances that a roach is going to be in the kitchen again? Even though there could be like a small possibility, I would go about thinking more saying like, if you do go back in your backyard, you know, maybe there'll be a critter or a snake, but the chances are so low, I wouldn't really like stress about it. And I feel like that would give you more peace and not really just paying attention or highlighting that small possibility, even though it did happen. But then, like Andrew's also saying, you know, setting traps or like things that can prevent it, but more thinking of the fact that like it probably won't happen again.
Okay, so we have one. Oh, you telling me hurry up.
And then just to reinforce that thought, you could also just simply lie to yourself. Put down, if you put down the traps, even though you know there's like a possibility of that snake still showing up, you just be like, okay, I put down these traps. That means it's impossible for this snake to show up. And it'll just make you feel more comfortable even though you're lying to yourself.
Okay, go ahead.
There's another thing, especially since I moved here to Charlotte. Snakes, bugs that I've never seen before. I learned about these things. I literally embrace them. Uh, the more you know about them, the less fear you have.
That is true.
Years ago, I mean, I was deathly afraid of snakes. Now I'm deathly afraid. I went to a pet shop every day for like 3 weeks and held snakes. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. And now, and then after that, I encountered 3 snakes, got them up, put them away, and went about my life. You learn these things, it's less fear. There's a giant bug that flies around here in Charlotte, probably all over the state, but I learned what that bug was, and it's one of the harmless bugs in the world. If my family sees it, they will run in the house. I talk to it. Hey, Joe, how you doing? So you embrace these things instead of fearing them. You don't have to go and pick them up, but know it's harmless. It's not going to bother you. It's a garter snake. It's a green something snake. It's not going to hurt you. And it's a lot better. It takes time, but it's
Yeah.
still embracing the fear now becomes no fear at all.
Yeah, and again, that's what we were talking about before. The fear of the unknown is what really gets us afraid a lot of the times, but knowing is half the battle. So you had one thing you want to say, Simone?
Yeah. And just to relate it again to kids, to use your example again, just in general, so kids are always watching. They're very observant.
No, go ahead.
They're very observant. And so like for using your example, so say if you had a child, and I know it might be reaching a little bit, but say you have a child and they observe you when something hard comes along like a snake, you avoided that area. So now they feel when a hard time comes, they run instead of trying to face the solution. But when you say like, okay, let's do an umbrella, let's put down traps, let's call somebody to come out here. Okay, now you're trying to create a solution. So now you're trying to work to change it. And so when a child sees that, then they'll know when hard times come, okay, let's try and solve that issue instead of running from it. And that's something I feel like should be stressed because children are always watching, they'll always see. And you see in many like domestic violence situations, they watch their dad beat on their mom because he didn't know how to express his anger. And so when he gets older, the only way he feels to express his anger is to hit. And so just making sure that you try to find those healthy and good coping strategies or way to fix bad situations, I feel will always be very beneficial for children.
Thank you so much. Well, like always, when good things have to come to an end, so I thank you so much for coming out and supporting us. And we enjoyed your company. And if you have any other questions or concerns, please feel free to call me. And we will be happy to do an assessment with you or address whatever concerns you may have. Right now, I'm going to turn it back over to Erilyn and to Erlen, the AY team. Thank you. The AY.
I'd like to give Andrea, the Disability Committee, and the presenters a hand. Please, thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. And hopefully we could all use these healing strategies as we move forward. We just want to make some announcements before we close out in prayer this evening. Our next AY will have the second Sabbath in June. Will be the Pathfinders will be leading out in AY. They had a great program last week, learning about the Bible, the books of the Bible, in a very fun way. And as you know, Juneteenth, that's a holiday now, and we want to acknowledge this, and we will be having a program, a joint AY with all the AY in Charlotte area, Unity, Trinity, and also with Gastonia and Berean. And we'll be having an AY here at 5:30 on June 18th, and that night they will be having a basketball tournament which will start at 8 o'clock. It'll be vendors, trucks outside. It'll be the team with the pastors and the elders versus the young people. You want to put something on the screen? Okay. And so you don't want to miss that with the pastors and elders playing against the young adults and the teens. So we'll have an announcement on the screen now before we close out.
Good morning. My name is Carla Edwards, and I'm choir director for Devoted Choir here at Northeast Seventh-day Adventist Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm here today to invite new members to join us. Our age requirements are ages 17 and up. What type of music do we sing? We sing a variety of gospel choir songs, things you may hear on the radio, things that you're familiar with that Kurt Franklin may sing, John P. Key, Richard Smallwood, and the list goes on. So if you feel that this is a choir that you'd love to be a part of, we'd love to have you. Typically we have rehearsals on Friday nights, but there's a lot of flexibility depending on everyone's schedule. If you'd like to join us, just look for me. Again, my name is Carla Edwards. You can also reach out to Shakira Williams, who is the founder of Devoted Choir. And you can also email me at my old faithful email that's easy to remember, connections3@hotmail.com. Again, we would love to have you as Devoted Choir members. Thank you. Have a happy Sabbath.
And just to piggyback off of that, I am a member of Devoted Choir, so it's a very good choir, okay? It's very beautiful singing, and even if you feel like you cannot hold a note too much, trust me, it's okay. Carla will work with you, Joshua, and so please join. Like you said, you could see her. If you don't know who she is, you could let me know, and I'll communicate with her and give her your information. So we're trying to start getting the choirs back up and running again, so please, if you're interested in singing, I heard you singing earlier behind of me, musically, so I hear, I listen to people singing. So please come on out and let me know, Carla or Shakira Williams. Anyone else have an announcement before we close? Okay, the Pathfinder's not here, okay.
All right. If you guys can just stand as we close out. And just really quick, just want to again thank the Disabilities Committee for hosting this AY and Mom for doing a great job. All right. All right, so if we could bow our heads and close our eyes. Dear God, thank you for this wonderful day, Lord. Thank you for the 8 laws of health that you've given us, Lord, to deal with the stress and the pain that sin has left on this world, Lord. We know that through you is the only way to get rid of this stress and the pain and the effects of sin, Lord. We just hand over to you all of our worries, our anxieties, our fears, and depression, Lord. Please just take it and ease our heart, ease our mind, ease our soul, Lord. Help us to continue to get closer to you and to continue to lead others to you, Lord, so that they may be able to also enjoy the peace that you have provided. In Jesus' name, amen.
You are now dismissed. You'll have a blessed weekend, rest of the weekend, and be safe. Thank you, Kirsten.